There's a version of your life you can't stop replaying. Not the good parts. The argument, the betrayal, the moment everything changed. The thing someone said to you 10 years ago that you still hear, word for word. In the dark at 2 a.m., you've told yourself to move on. You've tried. Maybe you've tried 100 times. And every time, something pulls you back. Not forward. Back. Always back. You're not weak. You're not broken. You're not living in the past because you want to. You're stuck, and there's a reason. A specific, documented, neurological reason. And once you understand it, being stuck stops feeling like a character flaw and starts feeling like something you might actually be able to work with. Here is the first thing you need to understand. Your brain does not store memories the way a filing cabinet stores documents. Clean, organized, retrievable on demand. Your brain stores memories emotionally. The stronger the emotion attached to an experience, the fear, the humiliation, the grief, the shock, the deeper and more permanently that memory gets encoded. This isn't a flaw. This was survival. For most of human history, the most important thing your brain could do was remember the things that almost destroyed you. Forgetting those things meant death. So the brain built a system. High emotion equals high priority. High priority equals deep encoding. Deep encoding means a memory doesn't fade the way ordinary memories fade. This is why you barely remember what you ate 3 weeks ago, but you remember with perfect clarity the exact words someone said to you the day they walked out, the smell of the room, the quality of the light, the sound of the door. Your brain decided one of those experiences mattered, the other it released, and once it has decided something matters, it holds on. So why doesn't the memory just sit there quietly, like a scar you can look at and then look away from? Why does it keep dragging you back in? The answer is a process called rumination, and it is one of the most well-documented psychological traps in existence. Rumination is not thinking about the past. Thinking about the past is normal and human. Rumination is involuntary, repetitive, emotionally loaded replaying, with no resolution at the end of it. You go around the loop again and again, and every time you come out in exactly the same place, activated, exhausted, and no closer to peace. Here's why. When your brain encounters a painful experience, it tries to process it, to understand it, categorize it, and file it away. This processing is what allows most painful experiences to gradually fade. But some experiences resist processing. They're too overwhelming, too confusing, too contradictory. The brain keeps returning to them, trying again and again to make sense of something that simply doesn't make sense. And every time you return to it, you don't process it, you re-experience it. The amygdala, your brain's threat detection center, doesn't know you're just thinking. It responds to the memory almost exactly the way it responded to the original event, flooding your system with stress hormones, pulling you back into the full emotional state of that moment. You are not remembering what happened. You are reliving it in a body that responds as if it is happening right now. Again, every single time. But here is what most people never talk about. Not everyone who goes through the same painful experience gets trapped the same way. 2 people experience the same devastating loss. One grieves deeply and, over time, begins to rebuild. The other is still paralyzed 2 years later, replaying the same moment on an endless loop. Same event, completely different outcomes. The difference is not strength. The difference is tools. Specifically, the tools for emotional regulation that were either given or not given in childhood. People who grew up in environments where their pain was consistently met with warmth and attunement, where distress was acknowledged, not punished or ignored, develop a nervous system that knows how to feel something painful and gradually release it. People who grew up in environments where care was inconsistent, unpredictable, or conditional learn a very different lesson. That feelings are dangerous, that distress leads to abandonment, that the only safe thing is to keep the feelings inside, circling unprocessed, building pressure with nowhere to go. This is not weakness. This is the entirely logical result of what those environments taught. You cannot use tools you were never given. There is something else underneath all of this that almost never gets named directly. For some people, the past has become identity. The wound is not just something they carry. It is part of how they define themselves. And letting go stops feeling like healing. It starts feeling like loss, like becoming a stranger to yourself. If you have spent years organizing your sense of self around a story, I am the person who was betrayed, I am the person who was failed, I am the person that terrible thing happened to, then moving beyond that story doesn't just require emotional work. It requires building an entirely new sense of who you are on the other side of it. And that is genuinely frightening. The familiar suffering is at least known. The territory beyond healing is completely uncharted. There is a quiet, terrible comfort in the devil you know. This is not self-pity. This is a deeply human response to a life built, however painfully, around a wound that at least felt certain. In a world where very little else did. And then there is shame. If rumination is the engine keeping people stuck, shame is the fuel. Shame is not guilt. Guilt says I did something wrong. Shame says I am something wrong. And shame, unlike guilt, has no natural resolution because there is nothing specific to fix, nothing to apologize for, no single action to change. The verdict has been rendered at the level of the self. When painful experiences carry shame attached to them, and many do, especially experiences of rejection, abandonment, humiliation, or abuse, the brain cannot look at them directly. Because looking directly at the experience means looking directly at what feels like proof of your own unworthiness. So instead of processing, you circle. You approach and retreat. You replay it endlessly, not understand it, but to punish yourself with it. Because shame has quietly convinced you that the replaying is not a trap. It is a sentence. And sentences are not escaped. They are served. This is why the standard advice almost always fails. Just let it go. Focus on the present. Choose to move on. It's been long enough. These instructions assume that being stuck is a choice. It is not a choice. It is a pattern, neurologically embedded, reinforced by years of lived experience. And patterns are not changed by instruction. They are changed by new experience. What actually works, according to decades of psychological research, is not willpower. It is not positive thinking. It is a slow, consistent experience of being fully seen by another person and not abandoned. A relationship, a therapeutic context, or even a single honest conversation in which you bring the painful thing into the open and discover that the world does not end, that you are not destroyed by the exposure, that the verdict shame handed down about your worth is not the final word. That is not a small thing. That is, for many people, the only thing that has ever worked. Because the wound was relational. It was caused by people. And the healing, it turns out, is also relational. You cannot think your way out of something you didn't think your way into. You feel your way out, slowly, in the presence of someone safe. One degree of exposure at a time. Here is what this all comes down to. The people who never move on from the past are not weak. They are not self-indulgent. They are not choosing suffering. They are people whose brains encoded a threat that felt unsurvivable, whose nervous systems never received the signal that the danger had passed, whose grief was interrupted before it could complete, whose shame told them the wound was proof of their deficiency rather than evidence of what was done to them. They are stuck inside a biology that was built for survival, and that did exactly what it was designed to do. The problem is not that the system failed. The problem is that the system is still running a program written for a world that no longer exists. And changing that program is not a matter of willpower. It is a matter of giving the nervous system, slowly and patiently, the experiences it never had, safety, attunement, witnessing, meaning. Not because you owe it to the people who hurt you to heal. Not because moving on means what happened was acceptable, but because the past already took enough from you, and it does not get to take the rest.